someone's microphone is picking up there's something.
I'll be surprised.
Not possible because I'm only on headphones.
You do get bleed sometimes, but it seems to have gone now. So
Yeah, David online artist is saying no echo. I think it's David artist. David.
Yeah.
Yes.
it's a David.
There's only one David in
It's
this
a David. It's a
this universe. Hello, everybody online. Thank you for joining us on a Wednesday, not a Thursday. Sorry for the late scheduling.
Muggage today. Oh yes, and of course, people of a certain age will understand the sweatshirt.
I am definitely of a certain age, and I don't understand it.
Oh dear me. Well done, David. Spot on.
UFO, what's that?
Oh, it's a Jerry Anderson thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
1972. Very, very dark, spooky series.
Okay, I think I'm about ready to start thinking about this podcast.
You're a bit loud for me, DGS.
Yeah, I think I heard that last time as well. I can easily turn my... I say easily. I can turn my perceived volume down. There you go, that should be a bit better.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
better.
just up a little bit more.
Okay. Down 2, up 1, that's what I've done.
Perfect.
Right. DGS with the booming baritone. That sounds like what I'd say when I get on the mic. Well, I suppose it kind of is.
Rock the mic psych.
What, and lay down some tunes or something.
Yeah, exactly. Why haven't I got seconds in my taskbar clock? Everything's new and not quite working the way I'm used to it.
It's 12:59:20.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, where's the old schedule thing? Keeps getting moved. There's people entering stuff in the...
Don't look at me. I've been as silent as a mouse. Display the time with seconds. Done. Right. Who's buzzing me now? Ninja Nurse, yes, with pleasure, but I've only got 13 seconds before we start, so it'll have to be afterwards. Sometimes you have to leave early. Well, I'm happy to help if I can.
Ring him for a private consultation.
And that's 1 o'clock.
Hey there. Hello.
Whoopsie,
and
no, sorry.
No. Ironically, that would have been quite good, but we'll come to that. Stop pinging whoever's pinging.
Oh, hold on. That might have been me, because stuff is still going out through... out rather, the little ping in my headset. I've turned the phone off, I've turned the watch off.
Right, ready?
I've turned me off.
Good afternoon and welcome to the PC Pro podcast. It is Wednesday, the 3rd of September, because we're juggling about all over the schedule this week, trying to find people to fill the podcast slots. And I have 2 fine gentlemen with me this afternoon. They are Dr. Darian Graham-Smith.
Hello.
And John Honeyball.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. And there's plenty to chat about this week, not least Google. And it had a rather good day in court yesterday, Darian.
It did, yes. So this is the thing that's been rumbling on. Judge, I think he's called Amit Mehta in the US, has been considering what to do about allegations that Google has been operating as a big old monopoly, and some of the suggested remedies, whether it might have to sell off Chrome and or possibly sell off Android, or at least split them out into separate companies that it would then, obviously, it could then compete with. But that's not going to happen. Judge Mehta wrote in his ruling that part of the reason is because AI has come along and upset everything, and the existing market, as we've come to know and love it, is probably not going to remain in its existing form for very long anyway. So with the anticipation that any advantage Google has had from a monopoly will be fleeting, he has declared that the company will not have to split up or divest of its crown jewels, or at least some of them. However, he has said that the tech giant is going to have to share some of the data it collects about and through web searches with competitors, i.e., we'll just make that public. And it's also not going to be allowed to enter into exclusive distribution contracts for new mobile phones. So in the future, it might well be that if you get, your next Android phone or your next Android phone but one, it might come pre-configured to use Bing and Copilot and, Opera or Brave as the default browser, rather than having all the Google services necessarily tied together. Personally, I think if it happens at all, it seems kind of unlikely that people will, that manufacturers will go for this mix and match thing. I think we're all accustomed to, and appreciate the integrated approach as Apple takes, and as Apple is often praised for the user experience of having everything tied together. So I think, I'm not expecting to actually see a revolution. But, it does open some doors, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens with this sharing of search data as well, because at the moment, it's not really obvious to me. I mean, Bing is the only sort of competitor that has anything like the stature to challenge Google. But as the judge said, in an age of rising AI, this does perhaps create an opportunity for some AI-powered upstart or OpenAI, who are always looking for ways to expand and get new footholds in the market, to start something new and and take on the, what are we now, 27-year-old, a bit more than that, king of search, with a fresh take for the AI age.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, as the judge said, the biggest potential rival to Google now is surely ChatGPT, not Bing. I think that ship has absolutely sailed. But
ChatGPT isn't a search engine as such.
Well, it is. It very much is skewing that way. I mean, you can actually now set ChatGPT as your default search engine in browsers if you want to. So I think they would very much like to be in that market. Well, I mean, what do you think, John? Was this an opportunity missed, or was the judge right about where the threats are coming from?
I think he's certainly right that we're in a period of very rapid change. There's no question about that. My go-to for finding things is Perplexity on a $20 a month subscription thing, and I get enormous value from that. And it's far better than going to Google or going to Bing or going to any of the other search engines. And I really like the way Perplexity lays out stuff and gives you links through to the source documents that it used to build the summary. I mean, other AI search engines out there try to give you the summary or their view without necessarily links through to the underlying sources from where it scraped the data. And there is a huge point here about trust. Do you just trust this document without links through to the underlying stuff? Now, in 3, 4, 5 years' time, I'm sure people will be a lot more trusting of these AI engines for finding stuff when they have a track record. At the moment, I think being able to see where stuff has come from is very reassuring. So I think from that point of view, he's right. I think to say you've been an abuser in the past, but things are changing, therefore we don't need to do anything, is pathetic. And I think that's being polite because it is a polite Wednesday. Why is there any suggestion that Google or any other of the large engines here, and I'm not singling out Google here particularly, but any of these other companies, why would they change their underlying methodology just because their presentation layer is going to change moving forward? You could argue, as I was just talking about sources through, that actually it's going to create even more havoc and more obfuscation if it's not clear where some of this data has come from. And that is a situation that is ripe for even more and new and exciting terms of abuse of the original content providers and other engines. So I think he's entirely wrong on that front. About the only thing I can really agree with him about is that we live in interesting times. Well, gosh, tell us something we didn't know.
For better or worse.
Go on, Darren. Sorry.
For better or worse, that this case wasn't brought by any rival. It wasn't sort of Microsoft or Apple or whoever suing Google and saying they've prevented us from doing this and we want this remedy. This was instigated by the Department of Justice. So I think it's not unreasonable for them to kind of take a detached look and say, well, okay, there were some potential violations, but there wasn't an obvious complaint. It's not, we could just say you've got to give $100 billion to a random selection of tech companies. But I hear what you're saying. Just, you've been bad, but maybe you won't have the opportunity in the future. So we're not going to do much about it. Sure, but
do you think was instigated under the previous administration? And obviously, it's a very easy if cheap jibe to say it's come to an end in this way without Google actually having to be broken up because of the change of administration.
Well, the initial action started in Trump term 1. So
really? Oh, it
that
goes
shows
back
how
that
long this
far.
has been going.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I would point out here is doesn't Google pay multiple billions a year to Apple to be the default search engine?
And will still be allowed to.
That is probably going to have to cease, and the payments. No, that will still be allowed.
Still allowed to do that.
But isn't that stopping in the Europe under the EU?
No,
I thought that was being.
Well, Europe hasn't yet to finalise its case against.
Okay, so it's all still up in the air. Yeah. Okay.
But the wider question here, when we saw this with Microsoft, where in Microsoft's case they were threatened with a breakup, got turned over on appeal. Now Google is seemingly largely getting away with this. As you said a minute ago, John, it doesn't encourage these big tech companies to alter their behavior in any way because the punishments are so slight that you might as well bully your way through whatever market you're in and take whatever pitiful consequences come at the end of it, mightn't you?
Yeah, I mean, these are organisations that are bigger than any nation state, and they act on that on that basis, and they have legal frameworks and so forth in place that are sort of at least of a comparable size to a nation state, if not bigger, and they will only act in their own interests. And if they have to hand out some data to third-party search engines, well, whoopee-doo. I mean, so what does that actually mean? Because there's no way that Opera is going to get a hosepipe feed of all of the search queries that go into Google. I mean, that's just unthinkable. It's simply not going to happen. So, what are they going to get? Sort of a top 100 queries on automotive, a top 100 queries on healthcare on an hourly basis or something. I mean, at the end of the day, what does this actually amount to?
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to get kind of my head around the ruling, but it's big and complicated. But one interesting thing which has come out is it looks like Google is going to be required to offer search and search text ads syndication services, which I infer, and I haven't dug into the technical details, I'm not sure how much is available. I'm not even sure how much Judge Mehta has specified, that I think you'll be able to start your own browser or your own search engine, and Google will be obliged to provide you with no,
not quite. So to select competitors, Google may have to provide up to 40% of that search engine results from Google itself. It's quite complicated, that ruling, but it's not the fact that you can just take Google's results wholesale. Up to 40% of the results you generate as a search engine can come from Google, but it's only for I can't remember the phrase he used, but it's select competitors. I don't think it's a startup. I mean, to be fair, Google does offer this as a commercial service anyway. Yahoo's used Google Search for years previously, and others have done it in the past. So, and others still do it, in fact. So it's not a new thing, but I think they're saying that access now has to be open to the whole market, not just exclusive deals.
I think we might be talking slightly cross purposes here because I'm thinking about text ads syndication services. And as I said, I haven't been able to find a proper definition of this. I've just been trying to Google it, but I ill-advisedly installed the ChatGPT search extension about 2 minutes ago.
Ooh,
and now
brave person.
Yeah, cannot make any sense of what it's telling me. It's not giving me any
nice
websites
knowing
at all.
you, Darian. You know?
Yeah, I might switch back now.
All right, well, let's leave the court ruling aside perhaps for a few minutes, and let's talk about the side loading issue that cropped up last week.
Yeah, well, it's more than an issue that cropped up. Google has stated that developers in certain places, starting out with Brazil, Indonesia, Singapore, and Thailand. I always wonder, how do they pick these particular launch territories? Maybe those are the places where they have the biggest problem with dodgy APKs, with things installing Trojans and ransomware and so on Android phones, because that's where starting next September, it's going to be impossible to install apps on your Android phone unless the developer has proved their identity to Google. This isn't like an Apple thing where you need to have an active developer subscription, you need to be paying money, etc. But you do need to have your identity verified, potentially using a government ID that you've shown to a human being. It's not entirely clear how exactly it's going to be enforced, but this does mean an end to just being able to grab any kind of code from anywhere, blat it on your phone, and just run it. So some people are very unhappy about that. But of course, if you are if you're a tinkerer, if you're someone who likes to develop, then it is a bit of a hoop to jump through. There is an element of trusting Google with your with a photograph of your passport or whatever. Doesn't seem that it doesn't seem that onerous to me. I should explain also, I forgot this rather important fact, that after that, a year after it's first introduced in those particular territories, Google intends to make it worldwide. So it's not just if you're Brazilian or Thai or whatever. Everybody within the next 18 months is probably going to get an Android update which blocks not unsigned code, not unauthorized code, just code that where the person who wrote it has not given any evidence of who they actually are and how they can be contacted and how they can be held accountable for whatever their code does. Yeah, it's sparked a bit of a two-sided row. This.
Yeah, it's almost a religious thing, isn't it? In terms of people would think that the purity of their device, and especially the way Android was sold initially, that side loading was one of the advantages of being on the Android platform. It seems they are now more and more reluctant to allow that to happen.
I think people are saying that, but really there's absolutely no restriction on, anybody without even paying a cent writing their own code and distributing it. It is just that person needs to have shown their identity. I think it's the lowest, widest possible hoop to expect people to jump through.
John?
I personally don't have any problem at all with truly hard-walled gardens. Apple's effort with the Play Store is far from perfect, but I'm reassured that stuff that goes onto there has gone through an element of scrutiny and checking. I mean, it's not perfect, we know that, but nevertheless, I'm pleased that it's there. Google has been upping its game for a while for stuff that goes into the Play Store. For exactly the same reasons. The difference has been that up till now, or up till next year when this kicks in with a vengeance, you can take an app, an APK file or whatever, turn off the security which is usually enabled on your Android phone by default, and then load this in from the side. It's not something you usually can do without making a security change into your phone. And I've been happy with that on Android. It gave me the flexibility. Most importantly, it allows old apps that are still valid, which are maybe no longer supported and possibly not even in the App Store anymore. You can still use them. What this is going to do is kill off all of the deadwood apps that are not being actively developed and supported. Now, in the Apple environment, Apple has very stringent rules about you keeping your app updated and so forth, and we accept that in that space. And Android, we've been able to load things that are maybe no longer in the Play Store, but you've still got the APK file, turn off the settings and load it up. You won't be able to do that in the future because it won't be, the developer will not be blessed to do that. I think it's a bad move. I think it's a wrong move. What I would certainly have applauded was, would have been making it more difficult to turn off the locks on Android to allow side loading. If that had become more onerous and more difficult and a few more steps to go through, so you don't have your in the case my case 75-year-old aunt doing something like this because she read somewhere it was a good idea and load this file up. Anything that makes that kind of change more secure, I think is a good thing. But to remove the facility entirely, I think's a bad idea. Or you say, do you know what? You're only ever going to have apps that are through walled gardens. Live with it. And again, where is this going to leave? I mean, take, for example, Windows, which has an extremely strong support for ancient pieces of code going back to the 1990s. You can still load it and run it. There's still astonishing capabilities inside Windows for emulating previous versions of Windows for an app that's a bit old and cranky. Just go in there and look in the settings of an app and then choose the version of Windows you want it to feel it's running in. And, you know, is that a bad thing? No, I think that's a very good thing, but it comes with downsides. Walled gardens come with downsides, and I don't think what they're doing here is necessarily a good thing.
I wonder how many people, and if you're joining us live on Discord, I'd be interested if you can let us know how many people actually sideload apps, because I suspect this is a vanishingly small percentage of people who do it.
Yeah.
And maybe this is why Google are not too bothered about potentially angering a few people by doing so. If you do wish to join us live, by the way, we're at pcpro.link/Discord. Normally at Thursday at 1 p.m. This week we're Wednesday at 1 p.m. for scheduling reasons, but we're always happy to see readers, listeners joining us live. Anyway.
So one last thing on this point about what you might call crudware. Yeah. Let's look at it on the flip side, which is it's not about running old apps that are still useful and that you've got lurking around at the bottom of your sock drawer. There is a good case to be made for having old stuff that's no longer supported, is basically gathering dust, that should not be allowed to run for the greater good. Looking at this from a balance point of view, I actually would fall on the side of saying ban old stuff that's no longer supported. That's one good reason why I like the Apple App Store. But to make a change, I think is quite a significant step.
Just to round up the views from Discord, Cold Tradascus, I could say that right in a minute, says, I used to a lot, but rarely now. JJ says once or twice in 20 years of Droids. Jeff Campbell said, I value the capability even if I only use it rarely. So it doesn't seem even the PC Pro hyperloy get involved with side loading very much. Let's move along. And this one is about Microsoft. And Microsoft, who has very much relied on OpenAI for most of its AI models to date, has decided it's going to branch out and generate its own homegrown AI models. And the first of these is called MAI Voice One AI, which has been given the usual Microsoft branding genius. Although to be fair, they're not actually using that name publicly. So what they've got are two different AI models out there, basically, and one's a voice model, one's a general text model. The voice model you can try for yourself on Copilot Labs. I will try and find the URL as I speak, but I think it's copilot.microsoft.com/labs/audio expression. And if you go to that site, basically this allows you to ask the AI to say something, choose a mode. So the modes allow you to select between emotive or story are the only two you've got so far. You can choose a different type of voice. So there's a vibrant British accent, there's an assertive animated American accent, there's a friendly gravelly American accent, there's a various voices to choose from. And then you can choose a style. So they range from sadness to curiosity to relief to grateful to empathetic. And so you basically pop your prompt in, pick from those different parameters and ask it to generate a voice. So I asked it to generate an introduction to the PC Pro podcast. I think I chose emotive, I chose a crisp British accent, and I chose the style friendly. Darren, would you play what it generated for me, please?
Welcome to the PC Pro podcast. We're so glad you could join us today. How's everything going with you? I hope you're ready for some fantastic discussions and insights. So just sit back, relax, and let's dive right into it. We've got an exciting lineup today, and I can't wait to share it with you. So Let's get started, shall we?
Did you write that script, or did it come up
no,
with that?
I
I could
just said-
tell because it says absolutely nothing.
Well, the fact it says hi there and then says hello and welcome again. Not the greatest start, but
I'm going home now. I think let's give a topic list and go to the pub.
I mean, Microsoft isn't the first to do this kind of thing. We've seen this from all the other major AI companies as well. But content aside, it sounded reasonably convincing, I thought. What do you think, John?
I mean, for what it was, as I've said before about a lot of this AI-generated stuff, is if you're not careful, it's just AI-generated noise. It's going to be very easy to create this kind of stuff and splat it out there into the internet and hope people are happy with it. And if you're looking for something to listen to while trundling down the M4, maybe this kind of stuff will be good for you. I think I'd really rather have something with a bit more personality, a little bit more acerbic, and a little bit more argumentative. And wrong would be good as well. Hey, like a PC Pro podcast. So yeah, I mean, I admire what it can do, and the vocalization seemed actually quite impressive. If it was a little bit kind of forced happy, maybe it's an adjustment you can twiddle for that. But I admire what it does, but please keep it away from me.
Darren?
Yeah, I was actually quite impressed by how natural it sounded, and it also, I could have believed that some real person had actually said that, because it was the sort of, vapid, time-filling style, which is exactly, well known on local radio and so forth. But this is the thing. I mean, AI, there's that joke, isn't it, about you can use it to turn like 3 bullet points into a 4-paragraph email that you send to someone who then uses AI to reduce it back down to the bullet points. I think if it can be taught just to get to the damn point, I don't necessarily need it to be acerbic, though I wouldn't mind, but just, if it can be, because AI is very good at this, actually. One of the best uses for AI is to load in an enormous document and just say, I only want to know these 3 things, take me to the meat. And I can see that it could be useful, but yeah, this idea of making everything fluffy and personable, I feel like we're still at the start of working out exactly how AI is going to properly fit into our lives. At the moment, it produces an awful lot of very easy to ignore stuff.
Yeah, Carl Jagaskas mentions Notebook LM in the Discord chat, and that is very good at what you just talked about, where you can dump a load of documents in, and then it creates like a pseudo podcast between 2 hosts, very similar to the Microsoft voice we heard there, where it effectively generates a show that helps you to learn what was within the content of the documents. I find that very useful sometimes. So Microsoft's AI chief, Mustafa Suleyman, said during an episode of a Decoder podcast, which is a podcast from The Verge, he said, my logic is that we have to create something that works extremely well for the consumer and really optimize for our use case. So we have vast amounts of very predictive and very useful data on the ad side, on consumer telemetry and so on. My focus is on building models that really work for the consumer companion. So it seems Microsoft is very much geared towards generating its own AI here, and that's going to be interesting for the relationship with OpenAI, because as I said, it's largely relied so far on cloning ChatGPT effectively. Now it seems Microsoft's going to go its own way, and if I was not sure OpenAI have really shareholders as such, but it would be a bit of a worry, because you imagine there's a fair amount of cash, or certainly in terms of compute power, that OpenAI relies on, that may not be coming their way much longer if Microsoft keeps developing models of that sophistication. Talking of Microsoft's AI efforts, they are also announcing that Copilot is arriving in TVs. Hooray, shouts everybody. So there's a new Copilot in a system that appears in various Samsung televisions that will launch this year. It's a really odd looking thing. It's got an avatar like a potato. It looks really weird.
Well, it's different to a paperclip.
Yeah, but they don't seem to be able to now AI avatars, Microsoft. It's one amongst their many weaknesses. But it will be able to summarize recaps of television shows. So if you missed the last episode, you can go back and say, what happened in episode 3, apparently. You can ask it various questions. Apparently, if you sign in, you can go back and play out from your Copilot history. So Microsoft keen to get into more devices. Darian?
Yeah, this is exactly my complaint about them plumbing AI into Windows as well. When I first heard it, I thought this is great because AI will enable us to cut out all the annoying mouse work and hunting around to try and find features and programs and work out what's going wrong with the registry, etc. But instead, they're really focusing on content and not focusing on the inner workings of the computer, not making it actually easier to interact with your computer. When I heard that they were going to put Copilot into smart TVs, the first thing I thought was great because many smart TVs have an dog awful interface. It's absolute pain to try and find your way around and access cryptic settings hidden in menus which are sluggish and irritating to get at. If I could just hold up a voice remote and say turn off the motion smoothing or program such and such a thing on the streaming channel for me, that would be marvelous. But it sounds like, once again, rather than getting on with the nuts and bolts of the user experience, they're very outward looking, which is a disappointment.
Yeah, the Sky Glass does that fairly well. You can say, play me the latest episode of Coronation Street from ITV or something, and it does that. But you think that would be the most obvious use for that kind of technology. Anything to say on this, John, before we move on?
Well, if there's one great definition misuse, it's the term smart TV. Most of them are as dumb as heck, dumb as a pile of rocks, with a user interface designed by idiots. And I think I'm being polite on that front.
I thought it was meant to be Polite Wednesday.
Oh, damn! I've already blown that, haven't I? I must confess, we just stick with the Sky Q interface and Apple TV with the various apps and services running on an Apple TV box, and that's fine by me, thank you. The least I have to do with the smartness of my smart TV, I'm all in for that. Thank you very much. Adding AI to my TV, I think, is just going to add a layer of annoyance to an already horrible experience and make me want to throw the remote at the screen.
Okay, well, that's a positive uptick from Honeyball Towers there. So let's move along. And it's Microsoft again, John.
It is. Now, this is... when you hear the word modernizing when it comes to software, what's your first reaction? And my first reaction is a sharp intake of breath and so forth. Because modernizing usually means we're going to make some gratuitous changes. You're not going to like it, but tough, you're going to get stuck with it. So this is going to be one of those sort of glass half full, glass half empty things, because it will very much depend upon how you work and the tools that you use as to whether you think this is either the greatest thing since sliced bread or yet another annoyance on top of the existing annoyances. Now, Microsoft Office 365, as we know, Microsoft really loves you to use its cloud-based SharePoint services and also OneDrive. Now, OneDrive can be a fairly divisive platform. There are those like our lovely Jeff on the channel who absolutely swears by OneDrive. It works for him. It's never given him a problem, and the sun shines out of OneDrive. And I absolutely get his point of view. And if you're buying into the Office 365 family pack, for example, you get a stonking amount of storage in OneDrive for each of your family members. And what could possibly go wrong? Well, there are some times where things do go wrong with OneDrive. I've had real problems on the OneDrive for Mac client where it sees a file name that it doesn't like, although it's legal on the Mac file name space, and it just stops. And it doesn't continue doing everything else. It just stops. And rescuing my nephew in Norway with his Mac laptop is something I've done too many times. Dropbox doesn't have this problem at all, but OneDrive does have this problem. I also know of friends, in fact, indeed, friends of Jeff and mine, who have had, and in fact, I believe, was it JJ on the podcast channel, who just discovered that OneDrive decided to move his entire file storage into the OneDrive folder, so desktop moved and so on and so forth, creating somewhat of a nightmare. So it's pluses and minuses. The thing I actually really don't like about OneDrive is the way that Microsoft tries to force me to use it. Now, let's take the upside. If you are in Word or Excel or whatever, and you do file save automatically, then it will just throw it into OneDrive for you, and you can do versioning, recovery, document sharing, all of these lovely things that are absolutely fabulous, provided you're in that mindset and in that channel. Here in the lab, we save everything onto local file servers, and then we have our own backup and archive. We don't use OneDrive here. And on the Windows, it's been possible to say, when you do file save as, it will then show you basically network stores, which are cloud storages first. And if you say, no, I mean local, of course, where local can mean local network, it will then take you through to a different user interface. On Windows, there is a setting which says, turn off the share to cloud bit first, throw that away and only give me local storage, which is really important for corporate users. On the Mac versions, there is no turn off the share to cloud version, despite me banging them round the head about this for months and months and months and months. They basically refuse to do it. And maybe here is the reason why, because Raul Manus, who's the product manager for Office Shared Services and Experiences team, was excited to share an update, which again rings alarm bells, saying we're modernizing the way files are created and stored in Word for Windows. So basically that bit which is saved to cloud will now be the default. It will be switched on by default, and you'll actually have to go in and dig around to turn it off. So basically Microsoft, moving forward, will force your documents into OneDrive. And this will be coming for Excel and Word, Excel and PowerPoint and so forth later this year. Now, if you are a OneDrive lover, this is going to be great. If you believe that shoving everything into all of your primary storage into OneDrive in the cloud is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and maybe for you it is, then this is going to be great, because it means you're not going to get stuff left on local machines that are not basically, I use the term loosely, backed up to the cloud. If you don't want to work that way, it's another step of hoops and things you're going to have to jump through, like me is going to have to turn all of this stuff off, so I actually store my data the way I want to store it. I see why they're doing it, I understand, and I think for the, a great many of Joe Public, getting their documents into OneDrive automatically is probably going to save an awful lot of tearful nights when people delete stuff they didn't mean to delete. And with the version control and backup and archive and stuff of OneDrive, hopefully this will do away with the question which I was once asked, which is, I've lost my PhD thesis. And you ask, well, where was it? Well, it was on a USB stick. Well, what happened? It's gone. And well, recover from backup. I don't have one. And you can easily see how using OneDrive and forcing documents, or let's use a better term, persuading documents into a OneDrive cloud will have an upside for a lot of people. It's just annoying the hell out of me.
Wearing my cynical hat, we had the story a few months ago where Microsoft was going to let you off the $30 charge for Windows 10 security updates if you turned on OneDrive settings, etc. Now they're forcing's perhaps a bit strong, but
persuading,
tickling your Word documents into OneDrive as well. Is this just another means of getting people to fill up their OneDrive allocations so that they can charge you extra when you hit your buffer?
I don't know, because I don't know what you get for free. But if you've got an Office
not a lot
365, you get 1 terabyte per user or something like that.
Yes,
which is frankly an awful lot of stuff. To be fair, this is not 100 meg and a balloon and a Smartie. You are getting 1 terabyte per user in the family plan, if my memory serves me. So I don't think the size issue is here. I think they do have a genuine concern about trying to help people not lose their stuff, and this is their tool to do it. The problem is, if you're outside of that particular ecosystem, it feels like I'm trying to be dragged screaming into having to use it, and I don't want to do that.
Are you going to be dragged screaming into it, Darian?
It all depends on the implementation. I mean, I'm not going to be screaming regardless because I do use OneDrive for a variety of things. I find it's one of the systems that plays most nicely with. I have the unusual combination of macOS on my desktop and Android on my phone, and I've found that it's a much cleaner experience than trying to use Google across those two things. Dropbox obviously started charging, etc., etc. So I do use OneDrive, and I'm fine with it. What I don't like, what I don't ever like, regardless of what the intended destination is I don't like it when, as John mentions, a file save requester comes up, which has clearly been designed, with a coercive intent to discourage you from putting the files where you want them and to encourage you to defaulting to somewhere where you might not. But I mean, everybody, as I think John says, everybody who has Office should have a OneDrive. So if this is a safer way of keeping safe backups in the cloud, then as long as it's not too arm twisty, then yes, I agree that this should be a positive thing.
I was just checking there because I'm sure a while back, certainly on the iOS versions of Word, you were allowed. There were different options to like support Dropbox or Google Drive and whatever. I couldn't find it in the Mac version of Word on my desktop there, but it'd be interesting to see how, if for example, I use Dropbox as my primary store. So what will happen? Whether there'll be an option to use Dropbox, I rather suspect not. I think you're going to get OneNote or OneDrive, so you're gonna have to use the manual save method as usual. But I would be more amenable to this if there was an option of different cloud services that you could save to, rather than just Microsoft's own.
And I would be
It's
happier
quite
with, for example, Google Drive I use here, because moving stuff between Android and desktops, the easiest way of doing this is to stuff it onto Google Drive and synchronize it. But in my experience, that can be very variable in terms of sync speed.
Yeah.
And you can sit around and wait for minutes at a time for the file to appear. And that doesn't fill me with great delight. So I'm not particularly happy with most of these cloud services, along with the underlying point about, it's your data on someone else's computer somewhere in a country you don't live in. Point about cloud services, and that's one reason. Well, we used to use Dropbox all the time as our primary sync storage, and we moved to internal multiple SMB NAS servers, frankly, from a reliability point of view. It wasn't the cost.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a hell of a lot of discussion on Discord with different people plug in for different cloud services. So maybe we should come back to this topic at some point. In the meantime, the trade unions are starting to get a little bit annoyed about this constant drive towards AI. So this is something from the TUC that emerged this week, where they basically set out a strategy report called Building a Pro-Worker AI Innovation Strategy. And the general gist of it is that the TUC is concerned that there's this constant drive towards AI at the moment, especially we're seeing all the time big companies coming out and saying we're laying off thousands of workers because we can do a lot of their roles using AI. In fact, I think Mark Benioff from Salesforce stood up this week and said that company had dropped, I think it was 4,000 staff. Yep, 4,000 customer support roles at Salesforce because AI can do the job that humans were doing previously. And the TUC is saying it's about time we put together a strategy so that AI isn't just seen as a replacement for jobs, that there's a worker first plan, and that the government should not be spending tens of billions of public money on AI research without putting safeguards in that guarantee that workers are supported and retrained rather than de-skilled or replaced. John, what's your thoughts on the likelihood of this occurring?
It sounds like an awful lot of flailing around to me, if I can be unhelpful. A lot of people thinking, waking up to some of the potential outcomes here. Whether they come to pass or not is another question, because the whole future of AI, its deliverables, pricing, and so forth is totally up in the air, and anybody who wants to give you very hard views on where AI and robotics will have distinct defined changes within 5 years, I think is on a big fishing expedition, to be blunt. So what they're trying to do is to come up with some sort of framework to protect the interests of their members. Makes perfect sense. That's why trade unions exist. And saying that we should have some sort of framework for dealing with this and what's going to be done. And the answer to that is, well, as soon as we know what it is that's going to happen, we'll be able to know. But until that point, we actually don't have any real view. And you can argue at that point it's too late anyway. So I'm not suggesting this is shutting the door once the horse has bolted. I'm saying is we're not even sure if it's a horse or an elephant, and if it is, what it's going to be able to do. I applaud them wanting to try and keep on top of this as a topic. I worry that quite a lot of this stuff is happening both from governmental level, especially civil service and governmental level, as well as other parties, because it's a new topic, it's in the news, and therefore they need to have some sort of view on it. I'm not interested in people's PR views. I'm interested in hard practical realities.
Darren?
Yeah, I mean, this is the latest in a very long series of kind of conflicts between labour and automation. And I mean, ultimately, you cannot prevent automation from finding its way into the workplace. I can't blame the unions. Of course, they're looking out for the interests of people who might otherwise, be put in a very difficult situation. But the long-term solution can't possibly be to just say we must not replace humans with machines. That's never been successful. What we really need is kind of not just the unions, but a proper societal effort to work out what work and what income are going to look like in the AI age. It's there's so many cliches. Let's just say that the genie can't be put back in the bottle. That'll do for now.
All right. Well, let's shuffle along, and it's time for nibs. And the first one's with you, John.
Yes, 4chan and Kiwi Farms, which are websites hosted and held in America. They are suing the UK government, Ofcom, over the age verification stuff that's come in place, because they're saying that their organisations are entirely based in the United States. They have no operations in the United Kingdom, and therefore they should not be subject to the laws of the UK. This isn't helped by the fact that the UK Ofcom has decided, after investigating 4chan, on August the 13th, it said in a provisional decision that 4chan had, quote, contravened its duties, unquote, and then started charging the site £20,000, $26,000 per day. And so this lawsuit is being thrown back saying, oi, this isn't anything to do with us. You've got no jurisdiction over us in the United States. We don't do business, quote unquote. I mean, I don't know these sites, so I don't know whether you can sign up as subscribers in the UK or pay money through a credit card for them in the UK. I'm afraid to say they're not sites that are on my radar. But if they are truly headquartered in the USA and don't do business in the UK, you can see some merit to their claim that this is a completely unreasonable overreach in their eyes by Ofcom.
Okay, next one is with me, and this is reports that emerged after the August 2025 Patch Tuesday update from Microsoft that some of the some machines were seeing problems with their SSDs failing or hard disk failing after the update was implemented. There was a lot of fuss about it on social media last week. Some people suggesting that you shouldn't install the update if you valued the sanctity of your data. Microsoft has come out on the defensive, saying after a thorough investigation, Microsoft has found no connection between the August 2025 Windows Security Update and the types of hard drive failures reported on social media. As always, we continue to monitor feedback after release of every Windows update, and we will investigate any future reports. Microsoft said it's also been in contact with storage device partners to see if they could reproduce the issue. but said that neither telemetry nor internal testing has revealed an increase in disk failures or file corruption after installing this month's Windows security update. So interesting to see how that one palms out in the end. Darren, last one's with you.
Yeah, so you may know that when I'm not being wrong about ChatGPT, I fancy myself as a bit of an amateur guitarist, and I was quite entertained to see what's been going on in the guitar forums this past week or two. It's a new pedal, like the pedals that guitarists use to change their sound, adding like chorus or wah or overdrive or whatever. Well, in the past, you may have seen people with like, a big rack of 15 pedals to do different things. Boss, the pedal manufacturer, has just released what it calls the Plug Out FX pedal, the PX1, which combines 16 different pedals into one physical unit, and it's quite a clever idea because you link it to your phone and you select which pedal you want it to simulate, and you just send that instruction to the pedal and it does that. You can attach a single external switch, so you can switch between two different pedal modes. So far so good. However, the controversy arises because you get, as I say, 16 pedals for free. There are more that you can, or say for free, included in the £230 purchase price. There are more you can buy for a tenner each. Now, I think that's, considering what people spend on guitar as a hobby, like pretty much a ridiculous bargain. You'd probably pay 90 quid for many of these pedals if you had the physical version. But the community is in an absolute uproar because they're not familiar with this, that those of us in other areas of technology have been dealing with for years. And I think, in the car industry as well, this is a very live debate. But just the amount of disgust and outrage that I've seen people saying, it's a principle. It sets a dangerous precedent. The idea that you buy something and then you have to pay more money to unlock additional features, which it ought to be capable of. I'll be very interested to see how this works. I suspect those people, although they're loud, will not be the majority, partly because I think Boss has probably got the pricing just about right. There are other pedals out there as well. There's a Line 1 competitor. But yeah, I just thought it was worth mentioning because it was funny to me. I mean, maybe it should be alarming. Maybe it's a sinister thing, but I was entertained to see this kind of debate spreading out into other areas of the discourse.
Okay, doke. It's hardware time, and this week it's with you, Darren.
Yes, it's not a router because I think, as with the last hot hardware thing, I actually bought this myself. The previous one was my own smartwatch. This is my own phone. This is the Google Pixel 10 Pro, which I picked up on launch day. And I thought, everyone's fairly interested in the newest phones, so why not tell everyone what's so great about it? And then I sort of started to regret volunteering that because, to be honest, it's a good phone. I mean, I'm going to stick my neck out and say it is the best Android phone I've ever used, but it's difficult to kind of really come up with the big USP, the big selling point that will make you all go, oh yeah, this is the one, got to get this. The one that really attracted my attention when it was originally released, and we talked about this only, I think, 2 weeks ago at when the Google event had just happened, is the 100 times zoom, which uses AI to interpolate and infer features and details. So you can get a picture which, although it's not a realistic representation of something which is very, very far away, it nevertheless looks really good and sharp and so on. And this has raised all sorts of interesting, discussions which were already underway about, generative photography and so on. But the fact is, I've very quickly discovered at the sort of distance where you'd be trying to film or shoot something at 100 times zoom, you can't, you wouldn't be able to see anything interesting. You wouldn't spot it. It's a tiny section of your field of vision, and holding the camera still, it does its best with kind of stabilization, but really it is very much a gimmick. I haven't seen anybody find a proper use for it. Maybe if you go to 30 times zoom or whatever, you can just about benefit from the combination of AI and digital and the 5 times optical zoom. It's not bad at all. It's certainly, the cameras, insofar as I'm qualified to tell, do seem to be at least as good as the ones on my old Pixel 7 Pro, but it hasn't changed my photographic habits at all. The other thing that people are quite excited about is, what were they calling it? Pixel Snap, which is, everyone's sticking with the phrase MagSafe, which is also known as Qi 2. It's this circle on the back of the phone. This is actually a case that has that circle printed on it. The phone itself doesn't have the circle there, but it means you can snap on a big chunky wireless wireless charger. I haven't seen the appeal myself. I haven't felt motivated to buy one. This is kind of a recurrent phrase, actually, in my opinions about the Pixel 10 Pro. There's nothing wrong with it, but the stuff that is new, it doesn't really excite me. I feel like they're trying to make more of these upgrades than I can really understand.
Why did you buy this thing again?
Well, I bought it because my Pixel 7 Pro was 3 years old, as you can work out, and the screen was starting to die in the corner. The battery life was failing, and I wanted to stay up to date with whatever is coming next for the Pixel, because they do this thing where you get the latest version of Android for, I think is it 7 years now after you buy a Pixel, but then there are special features that use, for example, the upgraded AI capabilities of the new processor, so you don't get everything. So I don't know which of the new features in the Pixel 10 Pro are going to be backported to the 9 or the 8. I think very little is probably going to make it to the old 7. But for example, there's conversational photo editing, so you can say to it, remove the person from the back of this picture, and it will understand it and it will do it. It's got a camera coach, so it can say, have you thought about framing this much better, you idiot. It's got what other lots of AI type stuff like that. You mentioned Notebook LM earlier. That's now built into it, so you can kind of like throw anything you want that's accessible from your phone into Notebook LM and query it. There's also a new Pixel Screenshots app, so when you take screenshots, those are automatically analyzed and become searchable and queryable. It generates summaries and so forth of them. This is all decent stuff. It's all software, though. I don't know how much of it is going to be exclusive to the 10 Pro, and most of it is also available on the regular 10. I mean, I got the Pro because I was excited about the camera. They've downgraded the camera on the regular 10 very slightly. They've downgraded, the main camera. What have they done? They've reduced the sensor size. That's right. So it won't gather so much light. It won't do so well in dim situations. But they have given it the 5 times optical zoom. So the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. The big feature they kept on talking about was Magic Q, which detects what you're doing and brings up, kind of proactively brings up information from what you've previously done on your phone. I haven't seen that once. I don't know if there's something I'm doing wrong. I don't know if it only works during voice calls, because that's how Google demonstrated it, and I, like most of my peers, make about 1 voice call every quarter. And this is kind of, as I say, this is all over. There's lots and lots of things that are new, but the ones that actually affect my day-to-day user experience are almost negligible. I'm really trying to think if there's anything that's
hot hardware of the week, man. Hot hardware of the week. You meant to be selling this thing.
Well, it's a lovely item. I mean, it's got the same design as the Pixel 9 Pro, so to me it's all new. But if you played with the 9 Pro, then it's functionally identical, but it is a very different beast to the old 7 and 8. It feels super solid. It's really nicely made. It's got that lovely I don't know if it's oleophobic glass, but it feels great to swipe your finger over. It's got a really kind of solid metal and glass casing. The only problem is, apart from the shape of the notch, it looks absolutely identical to my wife's iPhone. This one, I've got a bumper case on it, which just makes the similarity even more complete. It's the camera band at the back is distinctively Pixel, but already once I've had to pick up a phone from the work surface and flip it over just to find out if it's mine or hers. I should have got a different coloured case, I know. I thought this one would be more different to her purple one, but it's not. It's sort of navy, which is under certain lights looks identical.
For the benefit of the tape, John's holding up a faintly radioactive looking case. Sorry, Darren, go on.
No, I was just still racking my brains about. The screen is brighter. The screen goes up to, I think it's over 3,000 candela per square meter in HDR mode, and it looks lovely. And it's got that OLED kind of, OLED screens look perfectly flat. They almost look like they are matte with a gloss finish. I really cannot fault the display. It's beautiful, although it's smaller than the old Pro, because I think in the last generation, the Pros got shrunk down to the same size as the regular ones. They introduced the XL model instead. So if you want the big screen, you need to pay extra for the XL. Yeah, John, please interrupt, because I'm just, I'm just
Firstly,
dumping here.
how much is this damn thing?
Oh, sorry. So, to buy it SIM-free, the RRP is 999.
How much?
But for well, that's normal for a pro grade phone. But for some reason, I don't know if they're still doing it. EE were doing a launch special where you could buy it SIM-free from them for 799. And I don't know what the advantage is to them of that because I haven't got an EE SIM, but I wasn't complaining.
Okay. And battery life?
Well, I haven't done a proper test. It's obviously much better than my old one because my old one was 3 years old. It's got me through the day so far. It does have a new feature where you can, I say new, I think this was in probably maybe in the 9 as well, I'm not sure. You can tell it to only charge to 80%, which is supposed to prolong the usable life of your battery. But 80% isn't quite enough to get comfortably through a busy day. If there were a 90% compromise, I might go for it, but I've concluded I would prefer to just kill the battery and get it replaced in 18 months' time, rather than have that battery anxiety every day.
What are you doing on your phone? Because like my Pixel 8a, which is now 18 months old, I think. I mean, I get to the end of the day with 40 or 50% left. So what are you doing that's smashing the battery?
It's
like
all
that?
this AI.
Yeah, must be.
Well, actually, I haven't really used a lot of the AI. It's probably, those people who follow me on Threads will know I can get a little bit conversational on there, which, so the screen is off and awake. And I am still quite addicted to Gardenscapes. I'm on level about 13,000 and something on that game. So yeah, the screen is on a fair amount. I'm not hammering the hardware. Actually, that's the thing worth mentioning. One of the criticisms that's been leveled at the Pixel 10 Pro and all the Pixel 10 series is the new Tensor G5 processors are still not as fast as your Qualcomm Snapdragon Gen 3s or whatever. But I mean, I think Google has kind of got it right because I've never known anyone who actually owns and uses a Pixel in the real world in the past couple of generations say this phone is annoyingly slow. Certainly, I have not been able to detect any problem with it. It might be there's an extreme workload where it would. It would start to stutter. But I think if you're using, if you're in that demographic, what what sort of processor you should get. For 99% of people just looking for a nice phone, it's a non-issue as far as I can see.
Okay, well, I've been away for a few weeks, and it seems the hoi polloi are getting well above their station at the moment because Nick L has launched his own poll on whether this is hot or not. So if you're joining us live on Discord, look for Nick L's post, and you can vote whether it's hot or not. John, what's your verdict?
Um, if I want a straightforward Android phone, I'll go and buy a Fairphone that I can take apart with a screwdriver, fix everything, and it's whatever it is, 500 quid. Frankly, if I want a high-end Android phone, I want truly high-end capabilities like folding and bending and absolutely state-of-the-art camera support and all the rest of it. For me, this falls into an uncomfortable middle ground where it isn't good enough to justify 1,000 quid, and it's an awful lot more. It isn't premium level. I accept at 1,000 quid it's not totally premium price, although 1,000 quid is a lot of money for a phone. If it's 1,000 quid, how much is it with a lot of storage? Oh, I see, £1,449 with 1 terabyte. So they're having a laugh. Because clearly, no way is it good enough to justify the thick end of 1,500 notes. And I'd really rather have 3 Fairphones for friends and family at the same price point. So I'm afraid to say I don't think it's anywhere near good enough. I don't think the CPU is good enough. I don't think the camera is good enough.
What?
Yeah.
What has a better camera?
Don't start me.
Almost nothing. Possibly the iPhone. It has the latest iPhone Pro has some wins and some losses against the Pixel, but it is like on Android, it is the Ne Plus Ultra photo phone.
Okay. Afraid to say, sorry, it's falling into a bad price point because I don't think it delivers enough, and there are advantages, real world meaningful advantages for sticking to something like a Fairphone that you can fix yourself and still has the 7 years of software support. So for me, I'm afraid to say it's a cold from me.
I think John's been infiltrated by Big Lee. I think he's won by the Fairphone. But I have to say, I agree with John. I just don't. I mean, I'm a Pixel 8A man. 8A, did I say? Just a moment ago. So I've long been dissuaded from paying four-figure sums for phones, and I'm afraid this one isn't tempting me back into the fold. I just don't see the advantages over something that's half the price, I'm afraid, and my battery gets me comfortably through a day, so that's the most important thing for me. Where are we? Darren, obviously, despite your negativity about most of the brand features, where are you on the 10 Pro then?
That is a valid question. I mean, when I hear John talk about it, I want to defend it. I think it is about as premium as you can get, and the price is competitive with other things from Samsung or Apple. So it's not, it's not a rip-off by any means. But it's partly Google is going to hoist itself by its own petard here by doing, by making everything in software. It is inevitably a little bit short on unique features that you can't get anywhere else, because, as I say, a lot of stuff will be backported or cross-ported to previous models. Also, I should mention, John said if he wanted a straightforward Android phone. I'm kind of sad to say that I think even the Pixel, the word straightforward can no longer really be applied to Android, because there's so many features being squeezed in from so many different directions, and so many, frankly, a little bit inconsistent and definitely puzzling things buried away in different apps and different settings. And my first kind of 5 days with this phone have been punctuated by requesters popping up saying, did you know you can do this, or try out this new feature, or sign up for this? And it is a little bit overwhelming. It's not kind of the word clean that we used to use for Pixels definitely no longer applies. But for all that, I just don't think there is a better phone out there. I know some people like the Samsung. Obviously, if you're an Apple person, then you will buy an Apple, and that's that. But, the build quality is simply spectacular. The cameras remain best in class. And it does everything I want, and then a load of extra stuff that maybe will prove useful someday. So I think, particularly because I found it for 200 quid off, I'm going to say it was hot.
Okay. It appears you failed to win over the Great Unwashed, however, who are voting 62% against 38% in favour. So I'm afraid it's a defeat both in the studio and in the Discord realm for the Pixel 10 Pro.
Yep.
But thank you very much for joining us this week. We shall be back in our normal regular slot on Thursday, I believe, next week. So we hope you can join us then. Thank you to Darren and John, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Barry, I know you very kindly offered to do some of the stuff with the audio,
Yeah,
but I
what
think
an idiot.
I can. It's
Oh, you're
fine.
top man.
Yeah,
Thank
it won't
you.
take long. There were very few hiccups in this one, and I've got all the stuff set up now, so I'll just get on with it.
Much appreciated.
No worries.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to go and do that now. Thanks. Cheers
Cheers,
all.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.